I think intergovernmental organizations like the Commonwealth, more than ever, can make a difference. And I think where it can really make a difference is to promote SDG 16, which is, as I said earlier, is where our work is located. I think one can argue that SDG 16 is the goal that can unlock the rest of the framework. You know, it's the one that can actually sort of animate by which the framework is made alive. And when we talk about the 5 Ps, when we talk about people, planet, peace, prosperity, and partnerships, at the heart of that is really accountable, responsive, yeah, and inclusive governance. I think just and peaceful societies can be reality if there is accountability, effectiveness, responsiveness, and inclusion in the way we do governance. And I say we because it's not just one interest that should be represented. It's not just government that should govern, but it is about multi-stakeholder ownership of governance. The other way by which I think intergovernmentals or multilaterals can contribute to the work is to support directly NGOs, civic voices in the South. The Commonwealth Foundation is doing that quite directly. We support the local ownership of our partners in the South. And I think that gives them the ownership for their own development, to actually articulate and to make things happen, to own that whole development and transformation, and to make that meaningful for them. The work of the Commonwealth Foundation is anchored on SDG 16, which is about promoting just, peaceful, and inclusive societies. So we know that violence, violent extremism, conflict, these are all rooted in human rights violation, discrimination, marginalization, injustice, and really when governance breaks down. So what we are saying at the Commonwealth Foundation is that we would like to support civic voices, strengthen civic voices so that they're more, they're active players, they're included in governance processes. And when we talk about civic voices, we're talking about community-based organizations, non-governmental organizations, alliances and networks of civil society at the regional level or national level, social movements, elders and religious leaders, but also artists and writers and those who believe that creative expression and storytelling and stories have a power for social transformation. So that's the universe of civic voices when it comes to the work of the Commonwealth Foundation. And our work in terms of strengthening civic voices takes a systems approach. So when we talk about capacity development of civil society or civic voices, we're not just talking about trainings or workshops. Rather, we're talking about accompanying civic voices so that they can cultivate and nurture relationships with, say, decision makers and policy makers. We're also talking about accompanying civic voices so that they can catalyze, or we can help catalyze enabling environments so that imbalances in power can actually be disabled and addressed, and the interests of those in the margins, the interest of people with disability, people living with HIV and AIDS, women, young people who feel that they're not heard or they're not engaged or they're excluded. You know, these people in the margins are actually, their interests are considered and also responded to in policy processes, in governance processes. Now, when we talk about a systems approach to our work, we recognize that gender, peace building, all of this governance are interconnected. They're integrated, so we don't see them as compartmentalized issues. And so when we talk about gender, for example, which is at the heart of our work, when we talk about women's empowerment and gender equality, we talk about its intersectionality, but also the intersectionality of peace and governance and gender. So we support inclusion of women instead of violation of women. We also say that it's not just about the voice of women having access to political or policy spaces, but for this voice to have authority to influence the decision-making process, and to bring women not just in informal spaces, but in formal spaces.